Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Karel van Heulen. I'm product manager at Televic conference. And today we would like to bring you a webinar about our new audio features. I'm very excited to see that there is a lot of interest. There were a lot of registrations. So that means that there is a lot of interest from your side into our new developments. But before we dive in, maybe just a little housekeeping to make sure that everybody feels at home. So, before we get started, let us know if you can see the presentation and if you can hear us. Maybe you can just give a quick heads up in the chat on the right side of your screen. I'll briefly take you through the interface of the webinar. So on the left side, you see our presentation. You can use a button in the middle to go full screen. On the right side, you see 4 buttons. We have a fifth one, so we can see all the participants. You can chat with us and give us feedback with the last button. So the second last button is used for specific questions. And if you have a question, please type it here. So other participants can upvote the answers also. And this allows us also to see what the most important topics are. And we'll go through the questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, that's it. The webinar will take around, let's say, 30 minutes, give or take. Our goal is to give you this presentation of, well, let's say first 30 minutes, and then we take out some other 10 minutes, 15 minutes to answer your questions. All right. Now, let's start right away. Smart audio and control, in fact, is a term that we use to bundle a lot of new audio features that we have developed and that we are about to release. So what does it mean? First of all, there are some new audio capabilities like dynamic mix-minus, gain sharing, and hands-free discussion mode. And next to that, we will release a new audio tool, the audio configurator, to make easy and flexible audio routings in our configurator setups. And last, I will talk about a specific audio routing, the DSP modes. Okay, let's start with the first one. Dynamic mix-minus. In short, this means the audio speakers are always on. So the built-in speaker of our microphone or of our discussion unit is used, of course, to reinforce the audio from the other delegates in the room, but also to let you hear the audio from the remote participants if you use, for example, Teams, Zoom, Configurator, Meet in your setup. In that case, the loudspeaker will always be on, even when your microphone is active. Why is this a change? Well, traditionally, and with most of the conference systems in the market, when you activate a microphone, and when a microphone is active, then the speaker of that unit will no longer be working. So to avoid echo or feedback, you will get, this will get muted. Now with dynamic mix-minus, what we will do, we will dynamically create a specific audio channel for each open microphone. That means that centrally in central unit, we will create an audio channel that will contain the audio of all the other audio signals except its own microphone. And we will send this to the speaker of this respective unit. So in this case, we have 5 microphone units. We have 3 open microphones. That means we would have like 4 different audio channels. So 1 for the units where there is no microphone active, and 1 specific for every unit where the microphone is open. So that's why we call it dynamic. It's created dynamically based on the open microphone. And this means also that it doesn't matter how big your conference room is. So suppose you have hundreds of delegate units in your room. Typically, the number of open microphones is limited. So the mix-minus can always be applied in your room. Now, maybe again, why is this important? So we talked about what, but why is this important? Typically, when you are in a situation where you are located further away from each other, then having a clear conversation becomes more difficult because you only have the speaker of your own unit where you have the audio from. And so when you are speaking in that case, of course, you will hear a drop in the audio level. And so the consistency of the audio is less good. Other situations, typically, for example, in city councils, you have a lectern or a speaker desk, which is located further away from the rest of the microphone units. And in that case, when you are speaking from the speaker desk, of course, you want to hear also the others. But since your microphone is on, you need to have also a loudspeaker that is working. Not only in city councils, this is the case. We have court applications where typically there are less units and so less loudspeakers, and also typically a bigger distance between the units. So that means also there, the dynamic mix minus is quite important. Another use case are training centra or education applications where then, let's say, the discussion units are placed further away from each other. But recently, well, the most important use case is, of course, when you combine this with hybrid meetings. When somebody is sitting at home using any of the remote platforms, and you are speaking, of course, you want to have a natural conversation. And when, for example, a speaker in the room, when this microphone is active, you want also to be able to hear the others in the room, but also the other one speaking at home. So in this case, you have now people speaking through the Teams platform. Speaker, the first and third one, they have the audio from the other speakers in the room, but also from the remote participants. So in general, why is it important? You will get a natural or a more consistent audio level, and you will have a more natural conversation with hybrid meetings. So that's, I think, the most important benefit from dynamic mix minus. It's important to mention, however, that it is only applicable on wired units, so not yet on wireless. It's available on all Plexus devices. So we have, of course, our Flex and Unicos, but also on the older Plexus devices like Confidia Tabletop or Confidia Flash Mount. And you need to use the configurator platform on this Plexus units. Okay. It's not only available for direct speak, it's in fact available for all the microphone modes. So if you have direct speak, request to speak, group, or discussion, you can apply dynamic mix minus. So it's a feature set that you can activate or deactivate in the software. This feature is already available, so you can already benefit once you downloaded the latest software on your central unit. Okay, this is dynamic mix minus. This second one is what we called gain sharing. Now, gain sharing, what does this mean? It's in fact some algorithm that we apply on the open microphone. So all the active microphones that are open, we apply a kind of auto mixing algorithm, Dan Hugen algorithm, if you know this. It's in fact a technology to improve the audio quality in situations when you have multiple microphones open. So this algorithm analyzes the audio signals from all the open microphones all the time, and then determines which one has the highest level. And then it adjusts the gain of the other microphones to avoid picking up any unwanted background noise. So this will ensure you that the audio is always consistent and without any distracting or disruptive noise from the background. So in general, it will ensure you that everyone's voice can be heard clearly, even when there are noisy, complex environments. And as a result, you will be able, of course, also to improve or to increase the gain before you get feedback in the room. So before we had the gain sharing on the open microphones, typically what was applied was auto gain reduction, and that just meant that we reduce the gain of each microphone with a fixed or a predefined number, depending only on the number of open microphones. So that means that regardless if you were speaking in the microphone or not, the number of open microphones defines the auto gain reduction curve. So for example, in this case, we have three open microphones, and that means that the auto gain reduction will be applied. So that was in the past how it was applied. Now with gain sharing, we will always or consistently listen to all the open microphones. And for example, in this case, the first speaker is speaking most. Number 3 is not speaking at all, although its microphone is open. And speaker 2 is speaking at a medium level. Now, if suddenly speaker 1 would stop speaking while his microphone is still open, this gain sharing algorithm will automatically increase the gain of speaker 2, who is still speaking, and will reduce the gain of microphone 1. So that you get always a consistent total gain, but that you increase the active speaker and reduce the microphone of the active speaker and reduce, in fact, the microphones where there is no audio. Okay, so we talked about dynamic mix minus and gain sharing. Those two audio features are already available in our software. So it is applied now also on all the microphone modes we currently have. If you install latest software, you already have this available. Now, what is a logic consequence of gain sharing, and that is not yet available? That's what we call the hands-free discussion mode. Hands-free discussion mode is, in fact, not only gain sharing on the open microphones, but we keep all the microphones in the system open. That means, as a consequence, you don't have to push a button anymore. So all microphones are open in your setup. We apply gain sharing on all the microphones. And of course, also mix minus. So each delegate unit will get the floor minus its own microphone. And then with gain sharing combined, you can, in fact, just sit wherever you want. You will, without pushing the button, your voice will be captured and will be heard by the others. What is even more interesting is that we will combine this with speech detection. So not only we will capture the audio, we will also try to sense when somebody is actually speak, and we will use that information to trigger, for example, camera tracking setups. So if you use, for example, TCam or configurator in hands-free discussion mode with speech detection, that means that you don't have to push the button, but that the camera tracking will know who is speaking and where the person is located. So that camera tracking will still work, although it does not get a trigger from a physical push of a button. Also, the metadata can be used in the API. So the API will also inform you who is actually speaking from what delegate units or from what microphone units. So you can use it for other camera tracking solutions, so third-party camera control solutions. You can use it for the reporting, name overlay, and so on. So speech detection in combination with the, let's say, the gain sharing will allow us to have, let's say, a very easy setup without any need for pushing a button and still using a very, the known camera tracking where you can zoom in on the actual speaker. And of course, since your audio is always captured, you don't have the possibility to mute your microphone, but now with this mode we will add a new capability, namely the possibility to mute your microphone, and then when you push the button, it will not be used to activate the microphone, but really to mute your microphone. Okay, so this is what will come next coming weeks. So with a new software update, it will be available again only for the wired Plexus units, but it will be applicable for all our wired Plexus units, so the new and the old ones. I would like to give you a small demonstration of how this works, and therefore we have our colleagues sitting in the other room where they are now located in the showroom to have this demo. Didier, please, can you take over?
Yes, hi everyone, and welcome to the demo. So maybe here. So we're in our showroom where we have activated hands-free mode in the room here, where we have about 15 flex stations. What you could see when we started the demo is that we were in full screen. So we had the backup view of the whole room. As soon as I start talking, everybody can hear myself, and also the camera tracking is focusing on me. I also have my colleague here, so I suggest that Karel also introduces himself to see how this works.
Hi Didier. So my name is Karel Lilon, also part of the Televic conference product management team. So you have seen that I asked a question to Didier, so when I did not have to push the button, and the camera captured me directly in the right side. So I think if Didier takes over, you will see that the camera changes again.
Yes, so we have a back and forth discussion without even touching the microphone stations. So also one of the things that is possible here is that I will share my screen for a second to show the Configurator page. Actually, let me see which one it is. This one. Share the screen. So you will also see now that I am actually talking. So you see in the speaker view, oh, 1 second. In the speaker view, you see that my name also appears. So if you apply naming on top of hands-free, you also have that metadata available. So as soon as Karel will start to speak, you'll see that he's also added in the speaker list.
As soon as I start to speak now, you will see that my icon is also highlighted.
So you have the full suite of conferencing solutions applied in hands-free mode with gain sharing of all the microphones and mix minus on each station. All right, back to you, Karel.
Yes. Yep. Okay. So thank you for this demonstration, Didier. I think it was quite interesting to see it live. As we said, this will come. This is not yet available, but this will come in the nearby future. Now, so we talked about dynamic mix minus, gain sharing, and the hands-free discussion modes. We do have also a new tool that is upcoming, and that is the audio configurator. And so in fact, the tool that will allow you to easily create audio routings in your system without having to install external software like you had with Cocom. So that one is, let's say, for later this year, but I would like to already introduce this to show you how it will look like and how we will deal with different use cases or topics. Okay. First of all, it will be part of the Configurator interface. And right now, in fact, if you open Configurator, you already have basic audio configuration. So it's, as you know, Configurator, it's browser-based. It's quite user-friendly. You don't have to install any software. You can just log in. It's profile-based, so the technician can do some stuff that the operator cannot. It's unlicensed, unless you buy Configurator 360 for the meeting management. But if you don't have meeting management, but only, let's say, audio configurations, you don't need to buy a license for the basic audio configuration. And with basic, you can already do specific routings, like a normal routing. You have the distant routing if you combine it with a remote platform. You have external equalizing, and then a special one, the DSP routing, that I will talk about later on. User profile, so that means a technician can change this, can set a specific routing, but you cannot do any complex routing. So these are predefined routings, and this will not allow you to make any change or to make groups or choose the Dante channels, for example, in that respect. Up till now, if you had to do some more complex audio routing, you had to go to Cocon. And in Cocon, you had, of course, the Cocon audio routing application, where you could do everything there. But then you needed, of course, a Cocon room server, an external PC, and let's say a client where you can do this modification. Now, with the Configurator audio routing or Configurator audio application, we will allow you to do this same easy routing and mixing like you have in Cocon. This easy and flexible creation of input groups and output groups, but also to let you easily select a predefined or a pre-made configuration. And so you can have multiple configurations in your room, and you can easily select or activate one of those. We will make again a difference between an operator and a technician. So, for example, a technician will be able to create those routings and those mixing. Then the operator will only be allowed to choose amongst those predefined routings. This will be license-based. So for the basic one, of course, when you have Configurator on your engine, you don't have to buy anything. When you want to go to this complex routing or more advanced audio routing, then you will have to pay a license. It's a license just like you have Configurator 360 license, you will have the Configurator audio license. They are not connected to each other, so that means you can only install the audio license if you only need to change the audio routing. If you need to do meeting management, you buy the Configurator 360 license, but they are not needed together. So it's independent of each other. Okay, so the audio configurator will be integrated into the UI, let's say, of Configurator. So if you look to the technician overview, you will have a tab where you see all the audio routings. And then when you have the license, you will see something more. So on the right side, you see here this matrix with the input groups and output groups. So if you don't have the license, you will not see this, or you will not be able to change this. With the license, you will be able to create new routings and to adjust routings. So on the left side, as I explained, you will see an overview of all the configurations that have been made. A technician can edit, an operator can only select and activate one of those in the list. It will indicate which one is active at that moment. You will be able to create new configurations, just like you would create, for example, a new meeting in Configurator 360. You have to activate, you can activate a prepared audio configuration by the button there. And you can, in fact, import and export different audio routing configurations. What is also added to this is that you will have full flexibility now on the levels of all the inputs and outputs. So not only the volume, for example, of the speaker and the headphone, but also the auxiliary inputs, auxiliary outputs, and even Dante inputs and Dante outputs. So you can really change, activate and deactivate and change the levels of every in and output. And then the matrix itself, so the routing itself, well, there of course it's quite similar like we had in Qualcomm. There we, for example, we can do different use cases. So suppose you do use in a city council, let's say a DSP to do all the audio processing externally. Well, then you can easily just, let's say, bring out all the microphones of the active speakers. Let's say, all the microphones. So every single microphone can be put on a Dante channel, can be brought to a DSP. The DSP can do its magic and then bring back in the loudspeaker of every single delegate unit this audio channel. So in this case, we don't do anything in terms of audio. We just bring it out and bring it in again on our loudspeakers. If we would like to do everything internally, then that's also perfectly possible with the same audio routing. So then we don't bring out the microphones of all the individual microphones, but we just put them all on the loudspeaker channel. We can even put in a remote delegate on an analog input. We can bring out the audio again back to the remote delegate, except for its own channel. And we can, let's say, if you want to record the individual microphones, you can put it on a Dante channel for external recording. So that's a very simple, let's say, example. We can go a little bit more difficult. Suppose we have a corporate environment with, let's say, remote participation through Zoom and interpretation in this room. Then again, you could choose to say, okay, I want to have everything, let's say, handled outside the system. And then you just bring out again all the microphones and do the processing in the DSP and bring back all the audio signals in the loudspeaker. And you could say, okay, we have, for example, interpretation through an external system. This could be Zoom or anything else. And then you say, okay, on my interpretation channels, on the floor of my headphone, I bring in the floor. On the English channel, I put in the English translation or interpretation from Zoom, and so on. So in this case, everything is handled outside of our system, but we can bring in and bring out all the audio signals so that you can use the microphones and the headphones in your system. If you would like to do it internally, the same, that's also possible. But then you say, okay, which microphone units should be in what PA system or what, or in what, let's say, external amplification system. You can bring in the translation on specific interpretation channels and so on. So here you have much more flexibility. You can do everything internally. So in that case, you do not always need a DSP to do everything externally. Same again for courtrooms. You can do it externally through a DSP, or you can say, no, I will handle everything myself and I will do the internal processing on my system. So then I just define what should be on every loudspeaker, what should be on an external audio recording system, and so on. So it's the same principle like we had with Qualcomm, but now it's embedded in the Configurator interface on the engine. So it's not a cloud-based, it's on the engine. And that means that you don't have to install any software and that you can easily, let's say, adapt the audio configurations. Okay, so that's about it for the, let's say, the audio configurator. As I said, this is for later this year. And we will announce this, of course, when it's available. it will be available or become available through a normal CRP update like the other audio features. And then last, maybe a specific item on the thing that we saw in the routing. In fact, you saw that we could create in our audio routing specific routings to work together with the DSP, so to bring out all the microphones and bring back all the signals for the speakers. You could use the audio routing matrix as I showed you, but actually at this stage, at this time, you can already do that without this audio routing. So there is now already in our Configurator audio interface, you will already see that there is a specific routing which is called DSP mode. And that means by default, all the microphones and speakers are routed to individual Dante channels. So it's fixed, so you cannot choose, but you have them available on Dante. And that means you can do all the processing externally in a DSP, but you still have the possibility to control the LED, so that can be controlled through an API, so that you can visualize who is actively speaking, for example, for the signage, or to show it on the display of the flex unit or the Unicos. So maybe just to explain you in this overview, if you select and adjust one click of a button, if you activate DSP mode, what will happen? Well, all the microphones will become all open. They will be all routed on predefined Dante channels. You can use them in a DSP, of course. The DSP can then perform all the magic, like gating, processing, mixing, routing, and create then the individual loudspeaker channels that can be sent back towards the delegate units. So they're put on a Dante channel, again, a predefined Dante channel, and then it's sent to the loudspeakers. But still, you can use an API to say, okay, it's delegate 3 that is now speaking. And so then also the LED will be activated, and you will see it on the flex unit. Speaker 3 is now actively speaking. You will see its name and so on. Okay, so this was, in fact, what we would like to present you today on our smart audio and control. There are a lot of new features, so we spend a lot of effort on, let's say, enhancing or improving our core, which is still audio. And therefore, I'm very happy to see that there was a lot of interest. If you would have any question, and I will quickly look at the questions, then you can ask them now. I see we already have quite a lot of them. I will not be able probably to answer all of them. I see that also my colleague is answering right now the questions. Let's go through a few of them which are not yet answered. Okay, when will the audio configurator be available in Plexis MME? So there again, it will be available both on Plexis MME and AER. So you just need to install the Configurator software on it, and then you will have these features available. So it's not depending on MME or AER. Could you control all new features through a control system like Crestron, like the preset and other features? So yes, so when we will develop this new, let's say, the audio configurator, we will also allow to have an API to control this and to select, for example, a specific routing. If there is a Teams participant in the meeting, can he or she be part of the gain sharing group? Well, actually, this is, as far as I know, not yet possible. We will need to look into that, but as far as I know, we need to have this all on our own Plexis system. Then we have, can we switch off the internal speakers, Televic, and use the external system audio in the big conference room? Yes, so I see my colleague already answered this. I will quickly go up. So the last question is now, the new audio matrix is inside the standard license of Configurator 360. Again, I would like to repeat, it's not, so Configurator 360 is a license on top of our Configurator platform. That means with Configurator, if you just install the software, which is free, of course, you will have the basic functionality, the basic audio routing. You can add Configurator 360 as a license on top of that, and then you will be able to use a synoptic overview to start a voting session or a polling session, to see delegates on the seat. So it's more for, let's say, basic meeting management. You don't need to have Configurator 360 to add the audio license. So when we will have this audio license, then we can just add it without the need for Configurator 360. But of course, you can always combine both of them. How many external analog sources can you process is another question that is upcoming. Well, so externally, we do have, let's say, 3 inputs and outputs on our engines, so the AER and the MME. So we have 3 external analog sources that you can process. Then there was a question still, how many audio groups can we add for the input and outputs audio processing? There we need to, there I cannot answer right now. I'll need to ask to the specialist to see what the maximum number is. So we will, my colleagues will take care of the answer on that one. Okay. Let's say, let's have a look. Then can we activate hands-free mode occasionally in a meeting space? And the answer is there, yes. So occasionally, in the sense that you can easily switch between meeting modes or discussion modes. For example, if you do have, let's say, if you do have this, let's say, this direct speak mode, and then suddenly you want to switch towards the hands-free, that's just a click of a button. So it's nothing else than just one click. So new features are coming soon. Can you give us more details from which version, plans when? So here again, we have this, most of the features, well, we have already features available. Let's say the BIX minus, DSP mode, the gain sharing. That's already available in the latest version 7.7. The hands-free mode is coming in 7.8. So that's the next upcoming version where we will have this hands-free mode included. And that's about, let's say, in the next coming months. Then the audio configurator, that's more foreseen in Q3. So that's later this year and will be not in 7.8, but in the next coming version. Okay. So I see that most of the answers, most of the questions got answered or will be answered. So if there would be any additional question or something popping up that you would like to know, please drop us an email. We will always answer on that one. And if there is nothing else, okay, no, then I would like just to thank you for attending this webinar. I think we have added quite some nice features. And I hope you are as excited as we are about introducing these in the market. Thank you very much and see you on next webinar. Bye-bye.